Good evening, folks. Welcome to this edition of Curveball Convos with your boys at Carolina Curveball. Let me introduce my cast and crew for tonight. It is Braxton Bodorf and Reed Tobin. Looking forward to a great show tonight. Colby is not available to join us once again due to work, but he will be on soon. Don't be worried for those Charlotte and NC State fans that like his analysis. But, boys, had a really fun weekend. Braxton, me and you had a great weekend together traveling. Reed saw you in Durham at the DPAP. It was a great weekend, boys. What are your overall thoughts on the weekend as we start to dive into the weekend results?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and go. Great weekend. Really, really good. Obviously, the weather was not the best towards the tail end of it, but we were able to get a lot of action in. And like you said, Case and me and you were able to get to Greenville. We all went to Durham, which was really cool. Yeah, I mean, that obviously was the headliner series, but there was a lot of other good baseball around the Carolinas, and we're going to dive into it all tonight. So, yeah, just really excited to get into everything.
Reed Tobin?
Yeah, it was great to be back at the ballpark. Fortunate enough to go to the Durham this past Saturday. Great atmosphere. It was great to see all y'all. Yeah, looking forward to diving into everything from this past weekend here.
Braxton, if you want to go ahead and pull up the slate, the final scoreboard slate, excuse me, and we will go ahead and just kind of get started and get cooking on the diamond. It was a fantastic weekend. Once again, another weekend of doubleheaders because of rain in the area. And Reed, for the first time, don't get into it too much, Reed, but we'll get into it later. But for the first one this season, a tie.
Yeah, very unfortunate ending there in Chapel Hill. It was shaping up to be a great last four innings in the rubber match yesterday. Pretty unfortunate. I thought they were going to have a window there, but I get where both coaches are coming through. Cold weather, fields wet. No point of risking an injury, but otherwise it was a pretty good weekend for both teams. I think ECU fans should be pretty happy considering what happened on Friday.
We'll get into that one much later, but first we are going to go through game by game or series by series, or honestly, some of these game by game because some of these were some little round robin tournaments or whatever you want to call them. So, first up, App State is 2-1 on the weekend. They begin Friday with a win over NIU. Guys, we've been seeing a lot of NIU the first 2 weeks. Should we adopt them as a team in the Carolinas? I mean, there's NIU all over my notebook here. ECU played them last week, midweek teams. I think they play all Carolina teams to start the season, to be honest with you. 8-5 win over NIU to start the weekend. Upstate does lose to Valparaiso 10-5, and they finish the weekend Braxton 17-1 over NJIT. But and Jake Armsy had a really good weekend for the Spartans, but 2-1 weekend for the Spartans, never a bad thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you mentioned, there was the Spartanburg Classic, I think they called it. So Valparaiso, NJIT, and I think the other team was NIU. Yeah, they all rotated playing PC, Wofford, and Upstate. Yeah, Upstate, good weekend overall. Like you said, 2 out of 3, always good. Armsy hit the ball well. Griggs hit the ball well. Sweeney came on there yesterday and had a good day. They pitched it pretty good as well. I think losing to Valparaiso was a little bit of a surprise, but you see what Valparaiso did to PC as well, that they were able to put up a lot of runs this weekend, which was impressive for them to come down here and do some damage. But yeah, Upstate had a good week. I think they're right on the outside of the rankings looking in. I mean, they pounded Western in the midweek, and they went 2-1 on the weekend. They battled well with a ranked Georgia team as well down in Athens. So I think they're on the come up. But yeah, overall successful weekend for the Spartans.
Coastal Carolina, on the other hand, I would say did not have a successful weekend to their terms, in my opinion. As you see on the screen, a very tough loss to Illinois there, 14-5 Reed. Ross Norman got the start in this game, did not even finish the inning, only pitched 2/3 of an inning, giving up 6 hits in the first, 7 earned runs, and 0 Ks in the first. And Illinois scored 7 runs in the first and 5 in the second to go up 13-0 in the first 2 innings, Reed. But I will say Coastal did get 2 wins over VCU. First one Friday night, 13-2, and then on Sunday, the doubleheader. This was a doubleheader. The Illinois game did get canceled on Saturday, moved, so this is a Sunday game, as you see. But Reed, not the best weekend for Coastal, but they did go 2-1. But this Illinois loss, and with the injuries, they really need Ross Norman to step up, and not even finishing an inning and going 6 hits, 7 earned. Not ideal.
No, Coastal just needs to get healthy. Norman, he looked good last weekend against Fairfield, but like you said, didn't even get out of the first inning against Illinois. But this veteran lineup needs to back him up. They've really been struggling to hit the ball. Thorndike has gotten off to a really slow start. Walker Mitchell has as well. Barthel hit the ball a little better this weekend, but with a young pitching staff, with all your top guys out right now, this veteran lineup needs to carry them here over the next few weeks until they're fully healthy. I hope we can get Fluky healthy to pitch on Friday night, but if I was Schnall, I wouldn't want to rush him back. I mean, it's only the second week of the season, but otherwise, pretty disappointing week from Coastal. But I mean, they'll have a great chance to bounce back this week as they head out to Houston.
Campbell Troy also affected by weather, as you see on the graphic, played a doubleheader on Sunday. The first game was a resume game from Saturday. They did finish the game in the third inning. Campbell up 2-0. Campbell did end up winning that game 13-1. Campbell did end up dropping the series 2-1. They did win the middle game to force a rubber match, in which Troy won that game 8-4. But I will say, though, in that 13-1 game, Campbell did hit 5 home runs in that game, which are pretty impressive. And also, something that's weird, the first 2 games of this series were a run rule, as in game 1, Troy beats Campbell 13-1. So that game was ended early, I think, in the 8th inning, I think. And then the second one was ended in the 7th, I think, as Campbell beats them 13-1. And then Braxton Troy finishes the job 8-4.
Yeah, Troy with a good series win there. Campbell's tested themselves early in the season with Cal Poly and Troy. Obviously, they got a good midweek win against ECU as well. And they play Coastal tomorrow, which will be interesting to watch. But, yeah, those bats came alive in that resume game on Sunday. They had a 2-0 lead, and they absolutely just ran with it to get a big win over Troy. Troy's a good ball club that we know from the Sun Belt. That's a tough place to go down and play, especially to go and win a series. But to get one game, you'll take it. They've gotten a game against both Cal Poly and Troy, so they've proven that they can beat these teams. They're going to be continuing to test themselves as they get into conference play, too, when we get to the CAA action. But Campbell, another one of those teams, I think, is as good, if not better, than a lot of our teams that are kind of on the back end of those rankings. And I could easily see them getting in the rankings before, by March or April.
Yeah, you kind of say it best about Campbell, of how they beat ECU, they beat Cal Poly, they beat Troy.
Yeah.
But they have the capability of beating these teams. They just have to be consistent with it. But speaking of being consistent, Reed, your Buccaneers are still undefeated. They sweep Elon. Reed, is it time to put some respect on your Buccaneers?
I mean, it's still early right now, but I mean, this is their program record start for them at 7-0 right now. Shout out Chandler Tupou. He was our player of the week this past weekend. He was sensational, 9-17, 3 home runs, 12 RBIs. Blake Edgman, he's been great for them, batting near 500, 9 RBIs on the season. Everything's clicking right now for them. This is a good start. I still think they're probably behind the 3 other teams, Winthrop, High Point, and Upstate in the Big South. But I mean, if you're a Bucs fan, you have to be encouraged by this start.
Speaking of a unencouraging start, Presbyterian loses all 3 games this weekend. They lose the first one to NJIT 14-2. Their second game to Northern Illinois 3-1. And they wrap the weekend up with the 21-9 loss to Valparaiso, which is not an ideal start down there. But hey, it's a long season. It's not about how you start, it's how you finish. Talk about not how you start, it's how you finish. UNCG, the last team to get a win in the Carolinas, with a series sweep over Canisius, winning game 1 3-1, winning game 2 7-3, winning game 3 12-1. I don't know if I game 2 7-3. Did I say game 2 or did I say game 3 twice? I think I said game 3 twice.
Yeah, they get the gist.
Yeah,
That's
it's
sweet.
okay. Friday, Noah Chapman, he was on our auto roll,
Yeah.
starting pitcher for UNCG, went 6 innings, 12 Ks. Was that one earned run or no earned runs?
One
I
earned.
believe it was one earned. Yeah, I think they
Yeah,
did get a
one
run
earned.
off him, but he had
One
12
earned.
days, absolutely dominant.
Yeah, and also Jake Mueller was 7 for 18 for RBIs for the Spartans. So a nice bounce back for them. App State begins their weekend with a 9-3 win over A&T, followed by a 10-0 win over A&T, and then a 9-8 win over Southern Illinois. Gage Peterson on Saturday versus A&T, six innings pitched, 7 Ks, 0 earned, all 3 hits. Nice bounce back there. Not bounce back, but a nice wins for App State there as they go 3-0 on the weekend. Reed App State, Charlotte with a sweep over Wright State. Wright State had a really good weekend last weekend, and going into this Braxton, we also discussed on Hoisted Colors 94.3 the game that this was a series to watch, but Charlotte really take care of business here, winning the first one 10-3, second one 5-4 in 11 innings, and then wrapping it up 9-2 to take the series. Read.
Yeah, they had a really good weekend, offensively. At the plate, Spencer Nolan had a really good week, 10 for 17, a home run, 4 RBIs. Alec DiMartino, the Wilmington transfer, swung a hot bat too. Zach Hunt too as well. It was a good bounce back after the disappointment last week against San Diego and then getting blown out at Clemson on Tuesday night. I really like the makeup of the Charlotte team. You're really testing themselves here in the non-conference, giving themselves a lot of good opportunities. I think they can absolutely finish in the top third. I think right now they're probably the third best team in the American. Things look encouraging for Woodard's bunch.
Also want to touch on for Spencer Nolan was 10 for 17 with a home run and 4 RBIs for Charlotte. So nice weekend for them. Brax, do you have any comments on Charlotte before I move on?
Yeah, no, I was going to mention Spencer Nolan. He had a fantastic week. Reed, you hit the nail on the head with DiMartino as well. Bain and Gunderson as well in that lineup. This is a makeup of a team that's coming along really well. I mean, a sweep against Wright State is very good. Wright State beat Louisville last week.
Georgia in the weekend series.
That's right. Georgia.
They took one. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Michigan State that beat Louisville. Wright State did beat Georgia one game on Sunday, but this is a team that's always in the regional. They win the Horizon League pretty much year in year out. So for Charlotte to sweep them was very impressive. And I'm high on the Charlotte team early in the season.
Speaking of impressive, the Citadel this weekend. We got a lot of Citadel fans in our mentions today. Maybe some burners, maybe some wanting us to put them in the rankings. They want them ranked. And they went 3-0 on the weekend with a 4-3 win over Marshall on Friday. Will Holmes, I think that's how you pronounce it, 5 2/3, 9 Ks, 0 earned, 4 hits, and a 4-3 win over Marshall. They then won on Saturday 11-6 over Marshall, and then they won 14-8 over Army, same Army team that beat South Carolina to start the weekend. They were led by a 3-headed monster in Zach Hunt, Phillip Daniels, and Jaden Williams. Zach Hunt was 5 for 12 on the weekend, 7 RBIs, 2 home runs. Phillip Daniels, 7 for 10 and a home run. And Jaden Williams, 5 for 12, 8 runs scored, 4 stolen bases. Talk about a blazer.
Yeah, he's a leadoff over there. He's been doing real well for them, and they go with Will Holmes, like you mentioned. That's their guy. They haven't played a midweek game, which was interesting, and they don't have one this week either. I found that kind of odd. But yeah, they've kind of played the least amount of games. But if they keep winning, and they go to Tallahassee this next weekend, so that'll be a fun watch. If they beat them, though, I mean, they'll certainly be pushing the rankings.
That will be huge for sure. And speaking of pushing up in the rankings, our new number 1 Clemson sweeps Bryant. Do we have anything on this? I mean, this isn't not much of a tough series for Clemson, but do you have anything on this one?
Clemson is.
Braxton, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm really impressed with Clemson right now. I know they haven't played too good of competition, but we were talking about it the other day. Reed, like Bryant and Army, I think, were their 2 series. 2 teams that have been in regionals in recent years. They're not bad programs, but they're not world beaters either. But Clemson's taking care of business. I think yesterday was the most runs they've given up all season with 5. I think they haven't given up more than 3 other than that game. I mean, they've been pitching it well. They've been hitting it well up and down that lineup, and I think it continues. They've obviously got South Carolina in the Palmetto series coming up with Presbyterian tomorrow in the midweek. So they're looking to continue this hot start, and I think they will. So.
Yeah, I think you touched on that perfectly. Steady weekend for Jacob Jarrell, Luke Gaffney, and Jack Crichton. It was good to see Connect get a little bit more work coming off the flu from last weekend. 5 innings this weekend, 8 strikeouts, just gave up 1 hit, 0 earned runs. Clemson's rolling right now. It should be a fun series. The in-state tilt this weekend against South Carolina.
College of Charleston drops a series to South Alabama. South Alabama defeated Upstate last week, right?
Yep.
Correct. So they have 2 wins over Carolina programs. College of Charleston drops the first 2 games, lost the first one 16-2. Not ideal there. They lose the second one 3-1, and then win the last one to avoid the sweep 7-6. Reed, your Cougars not off to the best start, but they do have an opportunity we will get into later this show versus East Carolina in Fayetteville on Wednesday. It's an anticipated matchup in our group here. But Reed, South Alabama is a good team. Braxton, you were talking about it Friday in Greenville. We think they are a good team. But Reed, does this speak more to Alabama being good or Charleston just kind of trying to find their way?
I thought they'd come out a little better, coming off the midweek upset at Coastal Carolina. After the disappointing past weekend against Rutgers, I thought they could build off that, and then they came out Friday night and got bludgeoned by South Alabama. But it appears South Alabama can really hit the ball. They put up a lot of runs last weekend against Upstate. In all, though, going 2-2 on the week, disappointing at home, not to be able to win that series. But Reese Holbrook had a good game yesterday. They were able to walk that off and salvage a 2-2 week. I look forward to seeing them play ECU in Fayetteville on Wednesday night.
Duke takes 3 out of 4 versus Milwaukee. Not too bad. Anytime you win 3 games in a weekend, it's good. But Reed or Braxton, are you concerned about that one loss, or it's just baseball?
No, I mean they dropped one to Maine last week as well. They're 7-2. For the most part, they've taken care of business. I think R.J. Hamilton's been a really good addition to that lineup. The Vandy transfer, our guy Satter Cannon's been playing really well as well. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how they do tomorrow against in Wilmington. I think that's probably one of the headliner midweek matchups for us. And yeah, we'll obviously touch on midweeks coming up later in the show, but I think Duke's in a solid spot right now. I think those 2 series, obviously they're both 4-game series. You're playing extra baseball, you're getting looks at extra arms, and you're winning 3 games a weekend. That's always good. So yeah, they're in a good spot right now, sitting 6th in our rankings, and they haven't moved. So keep winning games, and they're gonna continue to move upward.
The next game I want us to touch on a little longer than normal because this one means a lot to everyone in this call right here in this show. Sorry. And one of the biggest games, one of the biggest series around the country, and you could argue one of the biggest series around the country every single year in East Carolina and North Carolina, was a really great series. Want to spend a little bit extra time on this one because Braxton, me and you were there for both games. Reed, you were there in Durham. Braxton, let's first touch on Friday. Friday night was a phenomenal day. Shout out Stephen Igo. Shout out the Hintons for letting us come on to 94.3 The Game. Shout out Philip Pilkington as well. Had a good lunch of Sup Dogs. Took Braxton Sup Dogs for the first time. The first original OG Sup Dogs in Greenville. He had a really good time. But during the game, Braxton, this is something that honestly neither of us expected. I mean, I was talking with Reed Sunday on the phone after the tie, and I said that one of my biggest takeaways from the weekend was how good Jason DeCaro is. I always thought he was a good pitcher, but going into Greenville, going into the jungle, one of the toughest places to play in the country, and shutting out ECU in a complete game, 10-0, is absolutely phenomenal. And Braxton, I'll get your take on DeCaro first, and then I will go to Reed to talk about Ethan Norby's struggles.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. DeCaro's looking more and more like a pro arm. I mean, he's in his draft year now. I mean, he's looked incredible since he showed up on campus and as a freshman was dominant and became one of the studs right away. Last year he didn't have as good of stuff. He still was really really good. But like you said, I mean, to go in that environment and just throw 8 shutout innings, even I mean, obviously he got a great help from his offense that night, and I think that he's going to get that a lot on Friday nights. Obviously you're going to be facing the other guy's Friday night arm as well, but Carolina just finds ways to get him runs, I think. And he's had a lot of success in his career at Carolina, and he's on top of the world right now. He threw really really well on Friday, and like you said, Kason, it was really impressive to watch there in person.
On the flip side, Reed, Norby has not looked the part. Preseason All-American, back-to-back starts have not been the best for him, but he does have an opportunity this weekend versus Rutgers, Reed. But also want to get your thoughts on the offense. I know me and Braxton were standing there with Steven Igo and Bobby Harward for most of the game, just waiting for ECU to get on base. They really didn't have a single extra base hit. I needed to touch on that from Picaro. Just absolutely lights out. ECU don't have an extra base hit, which is unbelievable. I couldn't tell you last time if that's ever happened in Clark Stadium. Absolutely phenomenal display from Picaro, and the bats really got going on Saturday, so we'll get into that later. But Reed, Norby, what's going on with your man?
Yeah, Kason, I really don't think. I mean, yes, the stat line's gonna say he gave up 4 earned runs, but I thought he looked much better than he did against Xavier personally. I mean, he had 7 strikeouts in 4 innings, but you got to give credit to that Carolina lineup. They were ready to hit his fastball too. Paulson hit one down the line for that homer. Cooper Nicholson in the 9-hole hit a home run too as well, and they were just making hard contact, putting the bat on the ball, and good things are going to happen when you do that. I'm not too worried about Norby. I think he's going to figure it out. I think he's still going to have a great year. Pirate fans need to relax. Yes, he hasn't looked the sharpest the past 2 games. But I think the bigger concerns on Friday night were the offense and a number 2 guy out of the bullpen. Besides Braden Burris going 3 for 4, I mean, like you said, Kaysen, no extra base hits. I mean, you're not going to win many baseball games when you do that. Joseph Webb really struggled out of the bullpen, had no control. By the time he came in, I mean, you just felt like with the way ECU's offense was going, it was going to be hard to come back into that game. And then certainly they weren't able to make that happen.
Going into Saturday, there was a lot of angst, a lot of questions on the ECU front, and also on the UNC front. Braxton just kind of UNC just really needed to keep their foot on the gas, but it was a totally different story from game 1 to 2. ECU came out swinging, took a 3-0 lead, and then Gavin Gallagher ties it up 3-0, and then ECU busted open with a Grady Linehan, the true freshman from Regina, shot off of the wall, over the wall, the same place as Gallagher hit it. Just absolutely phenomenal offense from the Pirates, and just really makes me question of what really went on Friday night. Just not like a Cliff Godwin team. And I also want to touch on Sean Jenkins was absolutely lights out. He's been playing like one of the best relievers in the Carolinas, if not the entire country. I think going from Gavin Van Campen on Saturdays to Sean Jenkins is a really good 1-2 punch there for the Pirates. Just everyone was getting on base for the Pirates. I also think Matt Lashley coming in and playing shortstop for the Pirates was huge. Having a anchor there at shortstop, also had a phenomenal bunt that turned into a double squeeze, which was just absolutely unreal. That is just ECU baseball to a T. And Reed, I think every single year ECU fans want ECU to just slug, hit home runs out of the ball. But I really just don't think that is their game. And as an ECU alum, I love when they do their small ball, those safety squeezes. It just really makes the other team think. It makes the other team have to make quick decisions and make sure they have the right decisions. And I think ECU played their brand of baseball on Saturday, and that is why they came out on top. Don't you agree, Reed?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at ECU's teams over the years. I mean, they really have never been a huge power hitting team. But I think this weekend you saw resorted back to more Cliff style ball, as everyone likes to call it. A lot more sacrifice bunts, just trying to find quick ways to put the defense on their feet. And, it worked to their favor there with Lashley laying down a great bunt. Colby Wallace scoring from second there too. But yeah, Grady Linehan too. I mean, what a game he had for the freshman with that three-run home run, and then the bases cleared triple. And then you touched on Sean Jenkins. I mean, he looks unhittable right now. I mean, that fastball, he was touching up to 96, 97. That slider, he threw that slider too a lot this weekend, and then he can mix it in there with his changeup too. Really impressed with him. 2 great outings this week, and it's good to see that ECU has a guy they can go to for long innings out of the bullpen.
Braxton, going into Sunday, we were due for an absolute gem. We were talking about in the concourse after the game in Durham how really looking forward to Sunday now. Going to be an absolute gem. And hey, we had a really good game early on. And then Braxton, we were robbed, I think, of a really good ending. Would have loved to see where it went, but your thoughts on what went down Sunday?
Yeah, I think we got 5 innings of pretty much what we were looking for the whole weekend. I think this would have been the close ball game that could have gone either way. Obviously, Carolina got their jabs in on Friday. ECU got theirs in on Saturday. I think this would have been like maybe a walk-off type fashion or, some close high leverage type game. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't get it in. And the more annoying thing is that it's a tie on both these teams' records that we have to deal with all year, and it's just going to sit there. Doesn't really do anything for either of them other than they can't schedule the game now. Or they can't reschedule a game against someone else or anything like that. So, yeah, it was disappointing, but I understand the decision from the coaching perspective. They talked about it on the show today with Cliff. Forbes is probably the same way. He didn't want to get anyone hurt with the cold temperatures. I think if it was like warm and rainy, they could have maybe tried. But, again, that surface, it's hard to play on when it's really wet. And you know what? It is what it is. We just have to move on. And basically the series ends in a complete tie. So, it's kind of the first time you see that happen in a three-game style series. There's always a winner. So interesting, but it is what it is.
I think ultimately they made the right decision because let's say they continue to play, and let's say that someone goes down for ECU or UNC and said team loses the game. Fans going to be all over the coach. Why didn't you just call the game in tie? It was tied 3-3. I think they made the best decision for all. Mind you, it is February. It's cold. I mean, we live in the area. It was very cold yesterday, and the field was absolutely soaked. Cliff said today, as you said, the field was wet even before the game. Braxton, did you have something?
No, I just wanted to say I think Steven made a good point today when he talked about on the show. He said that if Carolina was down 3-1 still, I think Forbes would have done everything to get this game played. I think the fact that they tied it up kind of set it back into perspective and be like, okay, you know what, like this isn't going to hurt either of us, which is unfortunate, but like that's the way it worked out. So, and then of course after 5 innings, it's a complete, you call it a game. So we were talking about that at Matt's when we were watching it. Like if this goes 5 innings and ECU has the lead and they end up calling it, it's a win. So yeah, it's just the way it worked out. But I just wanted to make that point that if like ECU was winning, I think Carolina would have done everything in their power to continue to get the game played or even rescheduled for today or whatever. So.
And for those net nerds out there, this counts as half a win and half a loss, so it basically cancels out. So we're not getting into net talk this early, but I just want to know for those listening that are into net talk that is where we are. Okay, we are halfway.
It lived up to it. The series was awesome. The crowds were great. I mean, every year this is just probably our favorite series to attend for us.
It is a phenomenal series to attend, phenomenal series to watch. Looking forward to another phenomenal one this weekend. South Carolina and Clemson. That is like kind of, in my opinion, the second place ECU UNC in my opinion in terms of conference crossover. I think NC State UNC is great, Duke UNC is great, but I think those two definitely take the cake because they always play at the beginning of the year, both not in the same conference. So I think 2 great series, and I'm gonna end it on this before I go to High Point. ECU and UNC will see each other again, whether it's in a regional or a super regional or in Omaha. They will see each other again. They will see each other again. I just think that if the baseball gods are true, this ends in a tie. It's when the tie has to end one way or another, and it will not be in 2027. Okay, next. High Point, correct? Yes, High Point takes 3 out of 4 versus Maine. Jake McCarter was 10 for 22, 7 RBIs, and 4 home runs for High Point. Absolutely phenomenal weekend from him. High Point, 3 out of 4, 3-1 on the weekend. Pretty good weekend there. Next, another in Carolina's matchup, A&T and Queens. They only played one game. This was the final game. NC A&T started their weekend with 2 straight losses to App State to go 1-2 on the weekend. They lost game 1 9-3 and game 2 10-0. Not the best start for A&T. Queens started off with 2 straight wins, Tobin, over Southern Illinois. First one 2-0, second one 9-8. And then A&T has to ruin their perfect weekend with a 6-3 win over Queens. But a solid weekend from each of those programs, I would say. I think A&T picking up that win is kind of a nice treat over in-state. I wouldn't say rival, but in-state foe. Any comments on that before I move on?
I mean, it's good to see Queens winning games here early. There's some, I think it was Ruler. I had him in the notes on the honor roll. Who had a really good game against Southern Illinois. And then A&T, good for them to get a win yesterday. Boaz Harper is a really good. He's a Carolina transfer. I actually coached him in Showcase Ball a few years ago. He's a really, really good player that they picked up out of the portal. I think he had a really good day yesterday from the box score. But it's good to see them get in the win column as well because they needed it. Because Queens started that weekend 2-0 and A&T started 0-2. So A&T grabs one there yesterday. Really important for them to get that win. And then also, like I said, exciting to see Queens start the way they have this season and hopefully continue to be right around 500 or better.
And speaking of not the start you wanted, UNC Wilmington drops the first game to Fordham 3-1, but then goes out to shut them out the rest of the weekend, winning game 2 19-0, led by Cooper Allen. 6 innings, 10 Ks, 0 earned, and 3 hits, winning 19-0, and then finishing the weekend off, Reed, defeating Fordham 7-0. So after losing the first one 3-1 to then outscoring them 26-0 to end the weekend, very impressive by Randy Hood's bunch.
Yeah, good bounce back on Saturday and Sunday, but I mean, as a Wilmington, I mean, you would be expecting them to sweep Fordham. But Bromley Thornton, he was great on Sunday as well. You touched on Cooper Allen. Thornton on Sunday, 6 innings pitched, 7 Ks, 0 earned runs, 1 hit. On Friday, Connor Marshburn, he's pitched well for them back-to-back weeks, but the offense just has not been able to get going on Friday night. They obviously found their footing here the next 2 days. But I look forward to seeing them tomorrow against Duke. I think that should be a good test for both Duke and Wilmington.
And Braxton, Wake Forest sweeps Siena, scored a lot of runs. Braxton, there were some guys on the honor roll as well.
Yeah, but I mean, Costello got the shout on the honor roll, but both Costellos, I think the younger one had a really good game in game 1 on Friday. And then Matt Conti as well was really good all weekend. Javar Williams had a good weekend in the leadoff spot. Cade Lewis did his thing. Wake is looking really, really good right now. They, when they lost the opening game of the season, we were all kind of like, okay, here we go. Morning Stars had a couple of rough starts, but I think they've battled really, really well. And then Reed, we were talking the other day or yesterday with Dallas may have gone down with an injury. It looked like.
Yeah. So I just found Tom Walter said yesterday. Yesterday Matthew Dallas apparently left the game in tears, but after the game, Tom Walter did say it was elbow tightness and was taken out as a precaution. And I have not heard an update today, but Walter did say hopefully it was nothing serious. So fingers crossed for Matthew Dallas. That would be a huge blow if they were to lose him for the season. Morning Star, like you said, Braxton hasn't looked to his best here these first 2 starts, but with that great of an offense, you're going to be able to win a lot of games.
Winthrop had their weekend extended to Monday. They win today 11-7. Excuse me. I was thinking about 7-Eleven. I was thinking about 7-Eleven, the convenience store. They won 11-7, correct?
Yeah, they played Marshall today. I think it was just basically a midweek for them because they don't have a midweek. Yeah. So they did play 3 games against Moorhead and got the sweep, but then they played today against Marshall.
4-0.
So another win. Yeah, another win for them. They're in our rankings. They continue to look really, really good under Coach McGuire. And, I mean, yeah, I'm really high on this team. I watched them against State last midweek, and they had some guys that were throwing mid-90s. Their hitters looked really, really good. against those state arms. And yeah, I think this is a dark horse for the Big South. And I've said that all year, and I'm going to continue to say it because I'm really impressed by what they're doing so far.
A dark horse for me in the SoCon is Wofford going 2-1 on the weekend as well. Not playing a weekend series. They begin the weekend with a 15-9 win over Valparaiso. They then defeat NJIT 1-0 and then lose their final game, as you see on the graphic if you are watching, to NIU 9-6, 2-1 on the weekend. Not bad for Wofford.
NIU was impressive down here. I just want to add.
Yes, correct. They
played pretty well.
Yes, yeah. They should play in the Carolinas every single year. I think I've said NIU. I think I've said NIU 5 times in the last 2 weeks. But
watched a lot of NIU, a lot of Northern Illinois baseball. I've watched the past 2 weeks.
More than I expected. Let's just say.
Absolutely.
It was not on my bingo card in 2026. Gardner, Webb, Jim Chester's bunch, 3-1 on the weekend. They opened the weekend with the 6-0 loss to Fairleigh Dickinson. They then win the next day 10-1 over FDU, and then play was it a doubleheader if I'm not mistaken?
I think they played FDU in the morning on Saturday, and then Dartmouth at night on Saturday, and then Dartmouth yesterday. They've had a good start to the season, Dartmouth.
Because they went 3-1 this weekend, one loss to Fairleigh Dickinson. They did beat them the next day, and then they beat Dartmouth 8-7 in their first game versus Dartmouth, and then they beat Dartmouth, as you see on the graphic, 6-2. They were led by Matt. How do I say his last name? Ilgin. Yeah. Ilgin. Excuse me.
I could be wrong, but that's
I could be wrong too, but he was phenomenal. 7 for 18, 9 RBIs, 2 home runs, 2 doubles. There's been a lot of really good Gardner Webb bats to start the season. Very curious to see how they look in the Big South, Reed. I think that they could come up and kind of test. I mean, I think in the past when teams like High Point, Winthrop, Upstate saw them on the schedule, they kind of be like, maybe we can get one. But the Bulldogs are not a tough out. The Bulldogs are no longer not a tough out this season, Reed.
No, their offense is rolling right now. Like you said, maybe they could sneak up onto some of the bigger dogs like Winthrop and High Point and Upstate, and maybe finish in that upper threshold in the top 5, and which looks to be a very competitive Big South this season. You look at Longwood too, who looks pretty solid out of the gate too as well.
Yeah, the Big South is up right now for sure.
Yes. And the Big South is a major component of Carolina Curveball, so we love competition, love the good play there. Already touched on Coastal Carolina bouncing back, beating VCU twice this weekend. The one loss at Illinois and that bad loss. Coastal wins 6-3. And lastly, but lastly on this graphic, we have 4 other teams to discuss, not on the graphic of their final results, but lastly on the graphic. If you are watching, if you're listening, thank you for listening, by the way. South Carolina opens the weekend, Braxton, with a 9-5 loss versus Army.
Yeah.
And I think the panic button may have been a hand maybe hovering over it, maybe not pushed, because they do finish the weekend 2-0, or they finish weekend 2-1. They go 2-0 after that with an 8-0 win over Navy and then a 4-2 win over Air Force. LaCroix was 11 for 20 from the plate, 5 RBIs, 2 home runs, 2 doubles. He's been a real stalwart for that offense there. But Braxton, a loss to Army on a Friday night in South Carolina, that's bad.
Yeah, obviously they had their Salute the Troops weekend or whatever it was called, which is cool. They played all 3 of the branches, Navy, Air Force, and Army. Dropping to Army was a little bit surprising. I think you're right, Case, and the panic button was kind of being hovered over, but they did bounce back. Their hitters had really good weekends. I was surprised. Craddock started off the game, both other games. He led off in both other games and led off the game with a home run just to kind of set the tone in both those games. Talmadge LaCroix, like you mentioned, he's a veteran guy. I remember playing South Carolina back in my playing days, and he was playing third base for them really, really well. And he seemed like a veteran guy back then, and he's still there. He's now catching for them. So he's kind of a leader in that locker room, I would imagine. And then guys like Patrick Evans and Dawson Harmon and who's the transfer? Oh, Logan Suter had a good weekend as well, swinging the bat. So they're coming along. I think it's at the right time too, because they obviously have a huge series against Clemson this weekend that their fans will desperately want to win. So I'm really interested to see, and I'm kind of have a feeling they might surprise Clemson. I obviously we've talked a lot about Clemson; they're our number one team right now. But I think South Carolina, that there's a lot of fans that are going to assume that they're just down because of all the talk around that program and how it's been over the last year and a half. But I could see them taking the series, to be honest with you, and surprising everyone and being back a little bit. But I might eat my words there. Clemson could go and sweep them, but nonetheless, their offense is starting to swing it a little better. I know Reed's not as high on them as probably I am. Not that I'm high on them, but I think I believe in this program. I mean, it's a historic Carolina's program. I believe in Paul Maneri as a legendary baseball coach, and I believe in them to figure it out. And I think they will.
Reed, do you have any comments on South Carolina, sir?
I mean, their fan base thought the world was ending Friday night when they lost, but Amp Phillips, his best start in a South Carolina jersey this weekend. 6 innings pitched, 3 strikeouts, 1 hit, got the win on Saturday. That was good to see. They really need him to pitch well. Braxton makes all good points about the offense. It seems to be coming along, but I really want to see what they're going to do this weekend. Then I think we will have a better explanation on them this upcoming weekend when they take on Clemson.
Yeah.
There were 4 teams that we did not touch on this so far because they were not on the final graphic. I'm going to touch on them now. They are Western Carolina, NC State, Asheville, and Davidson. Reed, let's begin with NC State here, dropping a game to Princeton in the doubleheader. They beat them 16-0 and then lose 1-0. Reed, you told me you were watching it. Wish Colby was on here to talk about it in further depth, but I saw you were watching it on the way back from Durham.
Yeah, it started well for State on Saturday morning. Duden had a career day for them. I think, what was it, like 12 strikeouts he had
11.
Or something like that?
Yeah.
11 strikeouts, 7 innings pitch, 11 strikeouts, 3 hits, 0 earned runs. He was terrific. We touched on it before the season. If he could really blossom into that Saturday, a dominant number 2, I think that really could elevate State into potentially creeping its way up into a top 8 seed. Marone was great on Friday night, as expected, but the offense just the second game on Saturday, after scoring 16 runs in that morning, I think everyone just expected them to roll that afternoon, but give credit to Princeton. They pitched a great game. That closer came in for the last 4.5 innings, and shut the heavy hitting State lineup down. But State still good week pretty much. I know they did move down a spot in the rankings. Most State fans expecting them to sweep Princeton, but I'm liking where State's at right now.
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre that they did that, shut them out. Pretty bizarre. Couple more series I want to touch on. Western 2-1 over Bowling Green. Nice win there for the Catamounts. Asheville swept by Ryder. Not ideal for the Bulldogs. And lastly, Davidson 2-0 versus Fairfield. On Friday, Ed Hall for Davidson, 5 innings pitched, 10 Ks, 0 earned runs, 2 hits. Nice win there for Davidson. And Brax, what were you saying happened with the last Fairfield game?
I think they just ended up canceling it on Sunday due to the weather. So they only got 2 games in, but good to see Davidson get the win against a solid Fairfield squad. So.
Yeah. And that will do it for your weekend recap, folks. That went right at 45 minutes. So now we will get into the power rankings before we get into a little midweek madness preview. Boys, these power rankings were not too hard to figure out because I think that we would have had a real problem if if the ECU series ended in an ECU win. That would have maybe shook up a lot more things. But we have a new number 1. And Clemson moving up 3 spots. North Carolina stays at 2. Coastal drops 2 spots. NC State drops a spot. We also have Charleston Southern, first time in the power rankings, coming in at number 10 at 7-0. Winthrop goes up a spot. High Point moves down 2 spots. Reed Tobin, your biggest takeaway from the week 2 power rankings?
Well, I just want to make a quick point. I just wanted to mention a quick refresher on how we do the rankings for the people listening if they didn't know. So there's 6 of us. Everyone at the end on Sunday will cast their own ballot, and pretty much like the AP Top 25, it's a point system. Tally those up, and that's what we get. I personally didn't have Clemson at number 1. I have no complaints with them being at number 1. I had UNC at 1. I would like to see Clemson. Yes, Charlotte's a good team, but it was also on a Tuesday night. I want to see Clemson this weekend. I want to see them prove it against a better competition. I'm not trying to hate on Bryant and Army, but I think this week will be a good stern test for them. But yeah, overall, I mean, nothing too crazy. I'm not worried about Coastal. They just need to get healthy. They got a lot of great opportunities coming up. I mean, if they go 3-0 this weekend out in Texas, they'll have a great case to get right back to number 1. And then, it's great to see Charleston Southern make their debut in the rankings.
Braxton, now that I'm looking at this a little more, it's going to be really annoying seeing North Carolina and ECU having that long tie. That is just absolutely brutal.
That's the worst part about them. That's the worst part about it. I'm telling you.
That's absolutely brutal.
Yeah. It is what it is, bro. Like, I would have rather them just cancel the game before the 5-inning mark or whatever. Like, it's just, you know what? It is what it is.
I don't know why they just didn't move it up to noon yesterday.
Yeah,
or I would have been fine with the doubleheader in Durham, but I think that was the least possible.
Yeah, well, then Carolina would have been complaining about not getting their home game, and I don't know. It happened the way it happened, but that, like I said, adding the tie is just so weird in baseball. Like I remember someone tied last year. I think it was maybe
Winthrop. It was
Winthrop or
Winthrop
tied. Record, and like every time we put them in like the notes, it was like we had to put the tie on there. Let's just get it. Let's just get rid of the tie.
Steven Iga was talking to me this morning, and he was just saying how like he's already getting tired of writing because he writes everything ECU, and he's going to have to put 1 next to every time he ties ECU, which is just kind of frustrating. But Braxton, your takeaways from the ranking survey, we had some people complaining. Citadel should be number 7 in our rankings, according to Citadel.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of teams right on the outside bubble looking in right now. I think the 3 that we have at 10, 11, and 12 are deservingly there right now. They've been playing a good brand of baseball. I thought it was harsh for High Point to move down actually after going 3-1 on the weekend, and they almost beat Wake in the midweek, but they did lose. They did go 3-2.
Yeah.
But I just think Winthrop has been playing a little bit better ball than them. Charleston Southern obviously undefeated. I think in my personal rankings, I had it High Point, Winthrop, Charleston Southern, but those 3 are going to be right there. Upstate's right there as well in the same league. You mentioned Citadel. If they need to play a midweek, I mean, that would help their cause. I think if they, go and beat someone in the midweek. The top 4 I said last week, I think can go any way right now. I think Clemson and North Carolina obviously separated themselves a little bit with their impressive weekends. I mean, Clemson being undefeated, Coastal kind of losing a couple of games and getting kind of embarrassed by Illinois was surprising. But Wake, Duke, ECU, South Carolina, Charlotte, all not moving as well. They've all kind of, taken care of business, I would say. Charlotte, that was a huge sweep for them. They, I think in some rankings people had them over South Carolina, but I look for them to, if they want to stay in that top 8 and top 9 and push into the top 8, I think they've got to keep winning, and they're going to find some tough series along the way. I think, do they play ECU this year? I'm assuming they do.
Yeah.
Charlotte,
yes. This year.
In Greenville this year, yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we did a good job with week 2. It's going to fluctuate a bunch. We're going to see a lot of changes in the coming weeks. It's always interesting to look back at the first one and compare to how it is at the end. But I think we did a good job.
How I kind of look at this sometimes, or not sometimes, right now, I look at the top 4 right now for me. Like you said, kind of interchangeable. I would have Coastal right now for me at the bottom of those four. I think just the injuries for their program are not great right now. And then I look at Wake Forest, Duke, ECU, South Carolina, and Charlotte, and I kind of look at them of kind of like a hodgepodge. I wouldn't necessarily say you could move them over each other. I think Wake Forest and Duke are very good, but I think that ECU, if they win the series versus Carolina, or if they win a series versus Coastal, or go 3-0 in the Leclerc,
Yeah.
ECU's going to break the seal above them. And honestly, the same with South Carolina. If South Carolina can pull it out against Clemson this weekend, what in the world's going to happen?
That's a
And
bigger
then
problem
Charlotte,
than if ECU would have
yeah,
beat Carolina.
yeah, and like Charlotte is going to play. Charlotte's going to play ECU. Charlotte has some tough games coming up because they are in the Carolinas, of course. They're going to play tough midweek. So
Yeah.
and then the bottom, you see the Big South Warriors. I mean, you see Charleston Southern there. You see Winthrop there. You see Hypeland there, and you don't see USC Upstate there. You don't see Upstate there who can easily hang with all three of those teams, if not beat all three of those teams. So I kind of group it like that personally, and just really, really looking forward to seeing how these move each week. But hey, like I just said, which of these teams are going to break the seal from those groups, in my opinion? If South Carolina beats Clemson, what's going to happen? If ECU beats Coastal, what's going to happen? If Carolina stumbles, if NC State stumbles, if Wake stumbles, if Duke stumbles versus a lesser opponent, what's going to happen? And Brax, you kind of touched on, you had High Point at 10 still, but I think sometimes it's more about what what happens around you, not so much about what you did. Charleston Southern going 7-0 is very impressive. So have them at 10. Reed, congrats to your Buccaneers. They'll probably be out next week. Now let's go to the midweek madness preview. We will once again be asking for your opinion on our Instagram stories. Be sure to
follow us.
Yes, please follow us on Instagram at Carolina Curve BBB. We will have it on our stories. You can pick a poll. Think about maybe posting the polls and saying which one won the poll. So first, I'm going to start off with Tuesday. Reed, I'm going to cut these games in half. So let's talk about the first half of the games here. Let's talk about the bottom half later. So the first one, I'm going to talk about Richmond at NC State, 3 p.m. ACC Network Extra. Thank you, Braxton. North Carolina A&T at North Carolina at 3 p.m. ACC Network Extra. Campbell at Coastal Carolina, 4 p.m. Not on Flow Sports. Shout out Coastal for having ESPN Plus. We can watch Campbell play on ESPN Plus, which is an absolute rarity. Presbyterian at Clemson, Duke at UNC Wilmington, and Longwood at Elon. Reed, of the games I've listed, of the games I read, which one are you looking forward to the most, sir?
I think I'm looking forward to that Campbell Coastal game. I'm curious to see if Campbell is going to throw Mason Smith again. He was sensational last Tuesday against ECU, going 5 innings, only limiting him to 3 hits, 7. I think he had 5 or 6 strikeouts. He was great. I want to see a bounce back week from Coastal. Should be a good crowd down there if they have good weather in Conway tomorrow night. So that's the one I've got my eye on the most.
Braxton, sir, which one do you have your eye on?
Yeah, I mean, Campbell Coastal's the obvious pick, I think. I think A&T and at North Carolina and Richmond and NC State, just looking for – I think State and Carolina, I want to make the point real quick of their weeks. I think they need to just take care of business this week. They've both got 5 games against lesser opponents. Anything less than 5-0 from both of them is honestly, in my opinion, is a bit of a failure this week. I think if you're North Carolina, you've got to beat A&T, you've got to beat ECU, and you've got to sweep Lemoyne. If you're NC State, you got to beat Richmond, you got to beat Akron, and you got to sweep Sacred Heart. So I think that it's important for those 2 teams this week to take care of business and look like a top 10, top 15 team in the country. So yeah, I would say those I'm looking forward to. And then I don't know if did you mention Duke UNCW in this half?
Yes, I did. I was going to touch on Duke Wilmington. That's one that I want to watch for sure. But guess what? Not going to be able to because I'm not buying Flow Sports. But it is what it is. We will be watching stat broadcasts on that. The last half of the games on Tuesday, Akron at Western Carolina, 4 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Wake Forest at UNCG, 5 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Davidson at Wofford, 6 p.m. ESPN Plus. USC Upstate at North Florida, 6 p.m. probably on Stat Broadcast. Looking forward to that Davidson and Wofford matchup there. That does it for your Tuesday slate. I am now going to read. Did you have something, sir?
Keep an eye on that Wake at UNCG game. The past few years, this is an
UNCG's
annual
beat
game.
them.
UNCG's really given Wake fits on their home field, so something to
I
keep
wonder
an
if
eye
it'll
on.
be Bagwell for Wake.
Yeah. I mean, with Matthew Dallas, no one really knows yet. We'll see.
UNCG beat them when they were number 1 in the country our first year.
Yeah.
I think they beat them last year too, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong about that.
I think they did. They beat State one of those years too.
Yeah.
In the midweek. They're a good midweek team. Sometimes they save their arms for those big midweek matchups. And they always host Wake, which is really cool. Maybe Kaysen, maybe make it out.
Yeah,
it is a possibility tomorrow for sure. On Wednesday, App State at East Tennessee, 3 p.m.
That was
Stat
supposed
broadcast.
to be tomorrow, but it got moved to Wednesday. I think, is that right, Reed?
Which game was it?
App State.
Didn't we say App got moved? Or you told me about the A&T move. I think I saw App State got moved.
Okay, yeah, it was UNC and A&T got moved up yesterday.
Yeah.
Akron at NC State, 3 p.m. That's probably going to be ACC Network Extra. I assume it's not on there, but I assume that's going to be on. UNC Wilmington at Charleston Southern. That is a really, really nice matchup. A tough kind of week here for Duke. Wilmington facing Duke, and then Charleston Southern. 4 p.m. ESPN Plus. The rare UNC Wilmington ESPN Plus appearance. Maine at Charlotte, 4 p.m. That's probably on ESPN Plus as well, I would assume, because of the American contract. And High Point at Liberty, 4 p.m. ESPN Plus. Let's take a break there and talk about those games above. Reed, I assume your eyes are going to be on Wilmington and Charleston Southern?
Yeah, I think absolutely. We'll see if Charleston Southern can keep it rolling, get to 8-0 on Wednesday. I think that's a great game to have. I don't remember them even playing last year. That I could be wrong about that, but
I couldn't tell you either.
Yeah, Wilmington really has a tough schedule this week. Duke tomorrow, and then traveling down to Charleston Southern, and then they welcome UConn to Wilmington this weekend. So I mean that's a really good 5-game stretch this week for them. Good opportunity this week for Wilmington, to possibly claw their way back into the top 12.
VCU at North Carolina, 4 p.m. ACC Network Extra. College of Charleston versus ECU in Fayetteville at Segra Stadium on ESPN Plus. Queens at South Carolina, at 6:30 p.m. on the Plus. And Braxton, your alma mater, USC Upstate at Stetson. NCAA regional team. NCAA team last year that beat NC State last year in the Auburn regional, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So, Braxton, of those bottom games, which one will catch your eye the most? Or all the games? I didn't get your take on the first half.
Yeah, I'll start with the top half. I'm also really interested in UNCW, Charleston. I think you make a good point, Kaysen, about UNCW having a tough schedule. I think that's actually huge for Charleston Southern, the fact that W has to play Duke the day before and they don't have a Tuesday game. I'm actually going to pick W to beat Duke, and I'm going to pick Charleston Southern to beat W the next day at home for the pick'em. And then I'm obviously looking forward to if we're able to watch Charleston and East Carolina play. That's a great game. Queens at South Carolina. I mean, they play. I think they play every year pretty much. That will be interesting to see if Queens can continue kind of their hot start to the season and challenge South Carolina. Because if that win happens, I mean, there would be serious alarm bells going into a Clemson weekend. Would be not good for South Carolina fan base. And then Upstate, they got to go down to Florida for two games. North Florida, that's a tough game to go down there and play in Jacksonville. And then Stetson obviously is probably even tougher. So another two game midweek slate for Upstate before they go to their weekend series. Who I'm sure. I mean, when do they play Texas? Is that coming up in a week or two?
Next weekend.
Maybe later. I don't know who
Yeah.
they got this weekend. I'll have to look, but they've got probably someone tough again. So we'll see. But I'm interested to see how they do down in Florida for this double midweek with North Florida and Stetson.
I'm really looking forward to High Point at Liberty. Liberty is always a tricky midweek team there. Looking forward to seeing how how High Point goes up there and plays, as well as VCU in North Carolina. VCU coming off a tough weekend, losing to Coastal. I don't know the outcome of VCU Illinois. Do you guys know? I assume they played.
I didn't catch the.
Yeah, I didn't really catch either.
Liberty though did take one from a good West Virginia team, and then Braxton upstates at Georgia Southern.
I mean, I know Georgia Southern gave up 1 million runs, but
it looked like the worst team in the country so far.
It is not an easy place to go play, though.
94 runs allowed in 6 games. Whoa, that's some bad pitching.
But I also have my eye on my alma mater as well, College of Charleston versus East Carolina. I think this is on the plus. If you go to Charleston's website, it says ESPN Plus. If you go to ECU's, it says Flow Sports. I don't know what's going to happen, but as a betting man who has been to Fayetteville, Reed, do you want to know a fun fact? This is the first time in East Carolina program history Kaysen is not attending the game in Fayetteville.
Wow. Segra is a great spot. I wish I could make it.
Because I went to the Campbell game, the North Carolina game, the Gardner Webb game last year. But last year at Gardner Webb, I was still at my house in Garner, so it was a much easier drive. Now I am in Mebane. It is an hour 55 from my place. I was like, no.
Is that the Woodpecker Stadium?
Yes, it is the Fayetteville Woodpeckers, the 1A affiliate of the Astros.
They used to play, I believe they used to play the Big South tournament there for a couple years.
It is a phenomenal stadium. It is very.
They renovated it, or it's fairly newer too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It is very it is very good. Reed, me and you have made a trip down. We went to the Campbell game, correct? Campbell ECU.
Correct. When Cliff got ejected.
Yes, Cliff did get ejected that game. And also to wrap up tonight, write it down, folks. Queen beats South Carolina, and Queens.
Did you put that in the pick'em?
Huh?
Did you pick them in the pick'em?
I'm going to go make it right now. Right. And that would be absolutely electric when Queens takes down South Carolina.
That would be awesome.
We may go live on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter as Queens beat South Carolina. It will be absolutely electric. But I think this is going to wrap up the show, folks. We're at 1 hour and 3 minutes. This was a really, really good show. I had a lot to recap this weekend. We had a lot to preview for the midweek. Folks, we had a ton of content come out this past weekend. Braxton did a really good job with our vlog to Greenville. Please check that out on TikTok. Our rankings are now up on TikTok as well. Really put emphasis on TikTok. Please check us out there. Get us in your algorithm. Start liking college baseball stuff, and we will probably pop up. Also, like and follow on Instagram and X or Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on Spotify. If you're still listening on Spotify, thank you so much for listening. Please please comment as well, boys. As we wrap up this show, thank you, boys, for coming on. And boys, what do you have to tell the people as we go into midweek madness here?
Buckle up.
Strap in.
Buckle up and strap in. That's right, folks. And that will do it for tonight. Thank you for listening. Thank you for all the support once again. This was a really fun show, guys. We will see you on Monday.